All right. Good morning, everyone, to this session today on central bank digital currencies. My name is Ousmène Mandeng. I'm with Accenture. We start with a short introduction by myself. We are missing one panelist, Cecilia Skingsley, from the Central Bank of Sweden, who unfortunately will not be able to make it. But of course, we do have a wonderful panel to discuss CBDC. So in my remarks, I'd like to sort of give you just a very, very brief overview of where we are with the adoption of central bank digital currencies. Now, Accenture is a leader in this field when it comes to CBDC solutions. CBDC promises to bring new functionality to central bank money. In fact, it could be argued it is a needed innovation to ensure that central bank money stays future-proof. Now, what is CBDC? The innovation with CBDC is the token format of central bank money. So you have central bank money in paper format and in reserves, and this would be a third format. The idea it should be or form an integral part of the monetary base. This is not about creating a new money. It is simply the same national currency, but in a different format. The idea is to serve token-based financial market infrastructures, and the dominant technology to administer tokens is blockchain or distributed ledger technologies. It is simply the best technology to manage these tokens. Dominant DLTs are, for example, R3 Corda, Hyperledger Fabric, and Quorum. Those are technologies that we work with in order to reach the needed sort of performance, privacy, and scalability that you need in order to operate in this space. Now, recent developments, there have been many, of course, include mostly proof of concepts by different central banks. We have worked with the Bank of Canada, for example, to prove that you can do a security settlement using a tokenized asset and a tokenized central bank money in order to perform these so-called atomic swaps, that is instantaneous settlement in token form. We've worked with the Bank of Canada and the Monetary Authority of Singapore to demonstrate that you can do DLT-based payments for payments swap in a cross-border environment. A very important development in Switzerland. We are advising Swiss Digital Exchange on establishing an entire token-based financial market infrastructure. Here the idea will be to be able to, in a fully regulated environment, to trade token-based assets. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, DTCC, performed an important study in October, also with Accenture, to demonstrate the performance limits of DLT. And what is important here is to show that DLT can meet the performance requirement of peak US equity trading, with volumes reaching up to 6,300 trades per second, basically eliminating prior concerns that DLT simply may not have the performance and scalability needed for large value payments transactions. And then there's Sweden that announced in June of 2019 a public tender for a retail CBDC. Let me dwell a little bit on Sweden because Cecilia is not here. So Sweden has a bit of a history regarding considerations for introducing CBDC in a retail format. The idea here is that in Sweden you see a very rapid decline in the use of physical cash. In fact, it's almost impossible to pay with cash in Sweden nowadays. Cash in percentage of brought money represents merely 1 to 2%. So cash has almost disappeared. The Riksbank, the Central Bank of Sweden, then was asking, should we withdraw from retail payments or should we give a choice to citizens when it comes to being able to conduct transactions in central bank money? It seems to be opting for the latter. It launched a public tender in June. A number of companies have applied, and the idea is to start a broader test and proof of concept beginning of next year to see if retail CBDC could work. The motivation here is to replace cash, but it's also about the diversification of the payment system in Sweden. And then lastly, the People's Bank of China has announced that it is almost ready. Now, the Governor Yi yesterday clarified that no launch date has been set yet. Now, there are four critical themes that at least we are discussing with central banks. In the retail space, as I mentioned with regard to Sweden, it is to create greater diversification and resilience in payments. As you know, most payments, domestic payments, are conducted by the large network, the large card networks, Visa and MasterCard. Many central banks are motivated by the idea they want greater autonomy, they want greater diversification in the payment rails, also in particular in the event of extreme distress to be able to allow their citizens to conduct transactions in central bank money. So diversification is a key theme. There is another theme which is financial inclusion. Could central banks assume primary responsibility for the distribution of central bank money, of currency effectively? That is obviously a motivation found in particular in emerging markets. Could CBDC become, given using mobile technologies, a way to disseminate and integrate into the formal financial economy those citizens that today do not have a bank account? In wholesale payments, the idea is very much to allow end-to-end settlements in token. Now, large value payment systems or any financial market infrastructure, it is an international recommendation that those financial market infrastructures should allow settlement in central bank money. So we are using this motivation to argue that central banks should be technology neutral, and where there are platforms that are conducting trading in token form, that the central bank should provide its currency for settlement in token form. So that's very much the motivation in the wholesale space. Then in international transactions, CBDC could allow to do things central bank money today cannot do. For example, it would allow, for the first time, to hold central bank money in digital form outside the central bank, including offshore. So this would allow, for example, a settlement in national currency in central bank money in a foreign country. It could bring new functionality and new possibilities to provide central bank liquidity for trading offshore. It could be a substitute for foreign exchange reserves. I think it may be able to address many of the issues and the deficiencies we have today in international monetary relations. And then there is the emergence of privately issued digital currencies, most famously Libra, of course, and I think it has given quite a bit of a jolt also to the official community. I think the idea is, could there be, in fact, coexistence of privately and officially issued currency? And if you take a very relaxed attitude about it, there's nothing a priori that suggests that private currency could be not as effective a medium of settlement as official currencies. This is a little bit of a new world, but not too new. In fact, historically, in the 19th century at least, a lot of currencies were issued by private banks of issues. Here in Spain, famously in the 19th century, the Bank of Spain competed locally with private banks of issues for the issuance of currency. Okay, so Libra, I think, has shaken the industry. There's a new thinking, and eventually, holders of Libra will ask themselves, am I better off fixing to my other Libra participants and floating against my national currency, or am I better off fixing to my national currency and floating against my Libra sort of participants? And the idea is very much we can rethink the whole idea of optimum currency areas, whether national boundaries or national territories are indeed the optimum currency sort of sphere of individuals or companies. All right, so I think what CBDC does, it has shifted or is shifting sort of what could be what are the success factors of national currencies. Now, currencies started very much in the 19th century of basically being metal or backed by precious metal, gold mostly, and silver. So the stability of the currency came from its intrinsic value. With the demonetization of gold and silver, the credibility or stability of the currency came very much from the quality of the issuer. Today, it's the credibility of the central bank that lends stability to the currency. Now, in the future, maybe it could be the functionality of that for a given central bank credibility, the functionality of the currency that could change the propensity or willingness to hold it. And I think that is the sort of world that CBDC could give us. So functionality of your currency that may be the new success factor of people wanting to hold your currency in the future. All right, that's it for me. So we have a fantastic, really outstanding panel to discuss these issues. To my left, Yoon Song Shin from the Bank for International Settlements. He's the head of research there. Jorge Ponce from the Central Bank of Uruguay, who is the head of research there. And Tobias Adrian, who is the financial counselor of the International Monetary Fund.